Many of you know that my family is from Peru. My parents were born and raised in Peru, and they immigrated to this country shortly before I was born. And to my parents and grandparents who immigrated to this country, the United States of America was the Golden Medina. That's what my grandfather called it, the golden country, a land of opportunity for all people, a land that provided a home and prosperity for my family leaving a very poor country. Moving to the United States also gave my family the opportunity to live proudly and openly as Jews. In Peru, the Jewish community was beleaguered by a Catholic-dominated culture that was overtly anti-Semitic, based in a common myth among old-school Catholics that the Jews were responsible for the crucifixion of Jesus. Latin American Jews are careful not to draw attention to their Jewishness. And typically, synagogues in South America are unmarked buildings tucked away in residential neighborhoods. Like Peru, there are many countries, in fact, even among the industrialized democracies, where government policy and law favor one religion over others, or where government directly funds houses of worship. By contrast, the United States, with the First Amendment to the Constitution and a wall of separation between religion and state, provides fertile ground for minority religious and cultural groups to flourish. As a result, Jewish religious life in modern America is more diverse, more creative, and freer than perhaps in any time or place in history, maybe even freer than in modern Israel, where state-sponsored orthodoxy dominates public life. The kind of expansive religious liberty we enjoy in this country has a paradoxical aspect, though, to it. There's a paradox in the freedom of religion. On the one hand, the free exercise of religion gives every group the right to express themselves and the right to live out their religious convictions. However, in order to make space in the public sphere for everyone of any religion or no religion, the public square must be kept somewhat neutral. Right? Everyone gets to express their religious convictions, but sometimes we have to refrain a little bit so that the public sphere is free for everyone. That means that no one religious group can be allowed to impose itself on others. And this means that to some reasonable extent, we have to refrain from expressing our faith in arenas that impact others. Not only should the government stay out of religious affairs, religion should not unduly influence public policy. We all come to the public sphere with who we are and what we believe, but we have to keep some space for other people's perspectives. And I can understand why some folks who would like to see their religious values incorporated into the laws of the nation feel that way, but doing so would be an infringement on other religious groups who do not share the same values and practices. For instance, if Christian political leaders were to mandate that all businesses must close on Sundays, or if the government were to outlaw kosher slaughter, as some people advocate, we Jews would see that as an infringement on our liberty to live and believe as we choose to. Now, the trade-off of this paradox is that the United States is one of the most religious countries in the industrialized West. Our religious liberty is precisely the thing that has made religion flourish in this country. By keeping government out of religion and keeping religion out of government, we have created a public sphere where religion can be freely expressed, and that is a blessing. But it's also why it is so troubling to learn that the United States Supreme Court is poised to infringe on the personal rights of individuals and also on the religious liberties of faith traditions that differ from the dominant culture. If the Supreme Court indeed overturns the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, as it appears it will, the court will not only intrude on the rights of individual women and others who have wombs, it will be an affront to the free practice of religion in our country, with implications well beyond reproductive rights. The abortion debate in the United States has largely been constructed around a very specific, narrow set of fundamentalist Christian ideas and concepts that differ from our Jewish approach to the issue. American anti-abortion activists most often draw on Christian dogma that is neither scientific nor congruous with other religious faiths. Many Christians claim that the human soul is present from the time of conception. Besides the fact that conception is not an accurate description of how fertilization and implantation actually happen, can't define a moment when the soul enters the body, much less when pregnancy starts. Not only is it not scientific, Judaism doesn't conceive of the blastocyst or the embryo in the early stages of pregnancy as a living being at all. In fact, according to Jewish law, a baby acquires a soul only upon exiting the womb and taking its first breath. Indeed, the words we use for soul, nefesh, neshama, ruach, are all synonyms for breath. So according to Judaism, life begins when you take your first breath. Until they take their first breath, the preborn fetus is considered a part of a woman's body and does not possess individual rights. You may not be aware that abortion was practiced in ancient times and familiar to our ancestors. Unlike other controversies of modern Jewish life, like whether it's okay to Zoom on Shabbat, our ancestors actually knew about abortion, and they wrote about it explicitly. The Mishnah, dating to the 2nd century and forming the basis of all Jewish law after it, discusses cases when pregnancy threatens the life or well-being of a mother. And Jewish law is very clear on the subject. In all cases, the life and well-being of a mother outweigh the interests of the fetus. In fact, in cases when the mother's life is at risk, the fetus is called according to the Mishnah, is a rodef. This is a technical category in the law of self-defense. In Jewish law, if someone is pursuing you in a matter that threatens you with death or physical harm, a rodef, a pursuer, you are not only allowed to use deadly force in return, you are morally obligated to defend yourself and kill rather than be killed. That is a principle in Jewish law. And according to Jewish law, if a pregnancy threatens the life or health of a mother, she not only has the right to terminate the pregnancy, she actually has a moral obligation to save her own life. Many modern rabbis, including many Orthodox rabbis, have also expanded the definition of harm to include psychological harm or financial hardship. There's more I could say, but the particulars of Jewish law on abortion are beside the point of my sermon. I wanted you to know those things, but that's not the point. I'm not trying to make the case for why abortion in some instances is justifiable, nor would I ever try to convince someone who isn't Jewish to follow Jewish law. And that's the point. To be fair, Jewish law has a lot to say about when abortion is not ethical. But my message today is not really about the practice of reproductive health care. It is about the collective right of Jews and other faith traditions to address this issue and the debate around abortion without the imposition of state-sponsored Christian dogma. Others can make the secular case for the right to privacy and women's right to choose. My perspective as a Jew and as a rabbi is that reproductive health care is a matter of personal ethics. The choice available to Jews and others should not be curtailed to conform with the ideology of one faith group over the rest. The secular government should not interfere with the rights of individuals to make private moral decisions, such as whether to terminate a pregnancy. These are private choices that a woman should be free to make in consultation with her medical provider, her family, or, if she is so inclined, with her religion. As a rabbi, I myself have counseled several women and families who have faced these choices, and I know many women, including rabbinic colleagues, who have chosen to terminate a pregnancy. I will tell you that in every case, they have confided in me because they take their choice seriously and want to make ethical decisions grounded in Jewish values. No one I've ever met has taken that choice lightly. But laws are being passed in many states that punish those who aid women seeking reproductive health care, which means if these laws are allowed to stand, what is to stop the government from punishing me as a rabbi or other ministers and faith leaders who counsel women on the values and ethics of their own faith traditions? And where does it stop? If the constitutional right to privacy is struck down, what is to stop the government from outlawing circumcision or divorce? Think about it. If the government outlaws circumcision, saying, well, we're just trying to protect babies, we would see that as an affront to our religious liberty. and the integrity of the body. What if the government were to go in the opposite direction and mandate the use of birth control to limit the number of children a family can have? Or what if the tables were turned and government influenced by Jewish law were to require abortion when the life of a mother is threatened? Right? What if there was a Jewish government that said you have to follow Jewish law? That would be equally wrong. Opponents of reproductive rights claim the mantle of religion. Indeed, laws recently passed in many states restricting access to abortion care explicitly reference Christian ideology and language. Without a doubt, our first concern should be for women who will be directly impacted by the overturning of Roe. But as Jews, I also urge us to be concerned for the implications of a ruling that would limit our ability to practice our religion. The fight over reproductive rights will continue, and I'm sure you will hear many arguments as we await a final decision from the Supreme Court. In the days and months ahead, I hope you will engage with this issue and take into account the perspective of women's rights advocates, legal scholars, and medical experts. But I also hope that today I've added something valuable and perhaps novel to the conversation. I hope that as Jews you will consider what Jewish tradition has to say on the topic and advocate for the interests of our people to live in a democratic society free of religious coercion. I will always defend the right of other religious traditions to promote their values in the public sphere, to speak loudly for what they believe. I will defend the rights of anybody of any faith who opposes abortion. But I will not defend the right of imposing those values on us enshrined in law. And that is the point of my sermon today. So I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you, Josh, too, for the opportunity to speak on this topic today. And I wish you a peaceful and Shabbat Shalom.